Hello, my stamping friends. Patty Edwards here with Why Stamp with Patty. And I'm an independent demonstrator from Omaha, Nebraska for Stampin' Up. And today is July 26th. And all month I've been featuring some Christmas cards, to kind of get you prepared for the holidays because it's unbelievable. July is almost over, and then, school starts again and all kinds of things. The fall goes really fast. And I wanted to do another Christmas in July card today. And today I'm featuring this Merriest Tags bundle. It has some cute little images. There's three big tags and there's some sentiments. So, of course, it has to from Merry Christmas, Holly Jolly, Joyful Greetings, and then it has Merry Happy Christmas that you can combine any way you want. A little something for you. There's some accent pieces that have a floral and then the holly berry. And the interesting thing about this set is that these three stamps are all one piece. So if you're going to use those, I would suggest using our stamp positioner because this is one big stamp. And so then you can stamp it, and then it has a die that's all one piece also that you can cut all three of them out at once. And then it also has a couple other little tags that are separate. And I'm going to use this one today on my card. I'm going to bring this in to kind of show you how these cut out. So you have the two individual tags, and they just have, and you can notice that there's stitching around those and the one that's in the middle of the three that are connected. And these two that are separate, they just have a different design at the bottom. And there's two candy cane dies. There's also two dies that cut out this floral and foliage image, and then there's two dies that cut out the holly berry, and then you have this cute little stocking. So those are the dies, and I did do a few just to show you, when you look at a stamp set that says Merriest Tags, you think, oh, all I can do is make tags with them. But you can use these on cards, and today I'm going to show you a Christmas card, a fall green card, and also a Halloween that I used the tags on. But you can make tags with them. So this one, for instance, I just cut out. I didn't, stamp the image. If I stamped the image, it would have this border on it. Same with this one. So here's a better picture of the rectangle one that has the stamped image first. And so you can get really creative and make really cute tags. And you can also connect these to your cards. This one, I cut out the tag in real red, and then I stamped this image, and I just fussy cut around it and then layered it onto the tag, just, to give it a little more pop. And then I used that die with the little poinsettias and foliage and pop that on there too. And then I put Merry and Christmas on one stamp and just stamp them both at the same time. So let's see what else I have here. Here's another one where I stamped the image, added the two from, and then just stuck that little stocking on there. This one, I stamped the image on the round circular tag. When it stamps, let me show you, it does have that foliage on the bottom, but I wanted to pop it up and add, more dimension. So I just took that stamp, stamped it on a separate piece of paper, and then cut it out and popped it back on there. So you really do have a lot of variety with this. And so those are just some tag samples. But today we're going to use this on a card. And of course, I am incorporating the things from Stitched Stocking. That's sweet. It's called a Stitched Season Suite. It has this DSP, and it has some ribbon. It's real red. It's a stitched pattern. It has these cute little adhesive back buttons, and you'll notice that there's glitter around the edges, and they come in red and white. And so in that suite, I've been using this several times in my videos, is this suite, the Stitched Stocking bundle, because it has all these amazing dies. So today I want to use this die and the one that cuts out these little trees. And then since I was using this, I went ahead and used one of the sentiments for the inside of my card. All right, let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to show you what we need for our card. Now, this time I am going to be using this piece of DSP, or our designer series paper, and it just has quilted blocks in rows, and they measure like 1 3/4 inches. And then on the other side it has this holly berry. So for this card I needed something that looked good on both sides for my card. And what I need from this is I want to cut a couple strips of this off, and I want to make sure when I cut, let me show you how I did that. So I'm just going to get my cutting board out here. I wanted to make sure that one of the strips that I cut, get a surface here, so I can see where my track is, and I'm just going to line my paper up so that it's going to cut right on that line. And I want to make sure that one of the strips that I cut starts and ends with one of these quilted squares that is white on the inside. So I'm just going to cut 2 of these strips. See, and that just cut that right down that line, because this cutter has that little track, and you can see exactly where you're putting that so that it's in the center, and it's going to cut exactly where you want it to. So I need at least 2 strips of this, and I'm going to kind of show you how you can get the most out of your strips. So we're going to take that away. I'm going to take my cutting board and put that over there. And then we can go ahead and set our DSP aside too. Now, besides these 2 strips, I need a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock. And again, this is just a half sheet that I cut on the 11-inch side at 5.5. So this is going to measure 5.5 by 8.5. And I want to score this in 2 places. Now, when I score in 2 places and I want them to be even, I like to use my Simply Scored board, just because, I could do it on my cut and score board. Our cutting board has a score blade, but, if you're off just a little bit, it might, mess up your card. Because today I'm going to make a gatefold card, which means that it opens to the right and to the left. So I have a center opening. And I need to score this at 2 1/8 on each end of my card. So when I lay it on the board, I can go ahead and do one side, and then I can turn my paper and do the other side. So I'm scoring this at 2 1/4 instead, or 2 1/8, sorry. Instead of figuring out, this would be, if you wanted to do it without turning it, this would be 2 1/8, and then this would be 6 3/8. But I just find it easier. I have that 2 1/8 in my head, and I just turn it and then do it again on the other side. So we can take this away, and now we have our card, and we're going to fold on those score lines and use our bone folder to make a good crease. So this is our card base. So it has that gate fold, opens to the left and to the right. Now, I also need 2 pieces of cherry cobbler that I'm going to be layering on top of each of these outside panels. And they measure 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And I wanted to give that, I wanted to use an embossing folder. And so just because I got my pre-order stuff, you know, when you're a demonstrator, you can pre-order things that are coming out in the future. And we will be having a new catalog that will be coming out, looks like this, and it runs from September to December. And in there, because I love embossing folders, they just add so much to your card. They have this softly woven 3D embossing folder. And I took these 2 pieces and ran them through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I just want to show you how lovely that pattern is. I just love it. And I think it's going to be very popular. So when that comes out in September, you want to be ready. All right, these 2 panels are just going to go on each side. So I'm going to get my liquid glue out here, and I want to make sure I'm doing it on the right. You know, you could probably do this on either side. You know, our embossing folders, I think you can sometimes use them either way, but I'm going to go with the way it was designed. I'm going to try to get that so I'm centered. And I'm just doing, you know, the same color on top, but it has that texture, so I think it looks great. And we're going to be putting some tags on here, and I want that to be the focal point. So I didn't want to put, you know, DSP or something busy on the outside and take away from our focal point. All right, this one's going to go on the other panel. All right, that is lovely. So that is the outside of our card, and then the next step we're going to do is the inside of our card. Now, I have a piece of basic white, and I just cut that down 1/4 of an inch smaller than the middle panel. So it measures 4 by 5 1/4. And we're just going to be putting this in the center. But since this had this, the paper I'm using has this quilted pattern, I thought it would be fun to use that little quilted border from the stitch stocking. So this border here, it doesn't you know, cut out, like it doesn't cut out this whole image and then you layer it on something. It just cuts out the border. So what I wanted to do was just run this through my cut and emboss machine. So I'm just going to center this towards the bottom, run that through the machine, and then when it comes out, see how it just cuts out the pieces? And then when I lay this on here, oh my gosh, sorry. I have a dry throat for some reason. Get a drink. And so when I lay that down on my card, I'm going to have that pattern. And, you know, it matches my DSP. So that's just another way, you know, to get some more coordination and just, you know, give that inside of your card a little pop too. All right. And then I can go ahead and stamp my inside sentiment. Let me put this up a little more so got a bigger area. Okay, so I used a sentiment from the stitched stocking, and I believe, because on the outside I'm going to put Merry Christmas, so I use sending warm wishes this Christmas. So we're going to go ahead and ink that up, and then I'm just going to stamp that in the middle of our card. Now, that would be pretty just the way it is, but we're going to do some more stuff to the inside in a bit. Okay, now we can go ahead and attach this. So when you're adding your adhesive, you just want to be careful. You know, if you're doing your tape runner, you might want to get out your silicone mat and run it along the edge. But with glue, we can kind of just dab in between there and then add it to the rest of it. I'm just going to put that in the center and grab off just a smidgen. It's a little better. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what we're going to do with these strips. So this one that has the white quilted middle on the top and bottom is the one we're going to use for cutting out our tag. And I'm going to use this little tag. And what I found is, you know, you just don't want to put this, you know, haphazardly anywhere. So I decided that I was going to kind of look at this point and this point, and then center these points of the quilt in the middle there. And I'm going to run that through. So I will go ahead and bring up my baby. So when we lay this down, and so again, I'm going to look, and you have these 2 points here, and I kind of want to center that so that it's kind of even. And then I'm also looking that I have an even amount on each side of those 4 points. And then I think, just to be safe, I think this needs to just go over a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to put a Post-it note on there to make sure that that holds. down and run that through. And then you'll be able to see that we kind of have a nice pattern on our tag. And if we use this strip, then we're going to be able to do this again, line this up, and cut a second one. And then we can turn this over and we can get our third one from the bottom of the other side of the paper that has the holly leaves and berries, and that, you know, you don't have to be specific, but that way you can get 3 tags. Whereas if I use the piece that doesn't have the white, I don't have enough room to get my whole tag, so I have to go down here to cut this out to get this in the center, and then I can cut a second one out, and then I'll have these 2 pieces that I can cut off and use on another card. But if you use the one that has the white at the top and the bottom, you can get all 3 of them out of one piece of that strip. All right, so now we are going to need to cut 2 of the quilted patterns, and we want 1 of the tags that has the holly berries on it. And then when we get those cut out, we're going to add ribbon to the tag. And I want to show you, so on my original card, I have to think about this. I went through the back side. I'm going to show you, like, I put the loop through the back side so you could see the whole of the tag. And if you go through the front side, you're going to get this nicer finish. So let me see if I can get that a little closer and kind of show you the difference. So this kind of wraps around, and for this particular card, I think either way works, but I'm going to go in from the front. I'm going to show you how I did this. So I have 3 pieces of this stitched ribbon. It's red and white, and I just folded it in half. And I'm going to, the part that is looped, I want to put through the front of my tag. So I'm going to use my pick tool that has the scoring part on it. And we're going to pull that through and then kind of open this loop and bring our tails through, and then we can pull this down, and that kind of just folds nicely over our piece there. All right, so we're going to do that to all 3 of our tags. 2 quilted and 1 that has the holly berries. Now, our next step is going to be, I'm going to add these to the front of our card. We could either, maybe we should finish or put the inside pieces, the 2 pieces of DSP on the inside, because here's what I did on the inside. And so you can see, again, here's this white piece. And last week I used this little die on a card, and I put the foam adhesive on the back because it was on the front of our card. But since this is on the inside, I don't want that depth. And this just, you know, gives it some more color instead of, so if this was on here like this, you'd have this big open area. So instead I added that little die from our stitched stocking. Looks like this. Has a little stitching on it. And it kind of depends, you know, what color you want to put in there. So on the one I did here, I did 2 Old Olive, and I did one that was cherry cobbler, and I cut it in half because this was cut off at the halfway mark. So it's kind of up to you what color you want to use. Today I think on my strips I cut just all the same color just to make it easy. So let me show you. I'll put this lid on the glue. Gotta put this die away so it doesn't get lost. Nothing worse than losing your dies. Okay, let me bring a couple strips in here to kind of show you how I cut this. So this piece, these are my 2 pieces, and I don't need to measure this. I'm just going to make it the width that it is. So we're just going to have the quilted strip, but the length is going to be 5.5. It's going to go all the way from the top to the bottom of our inside panels on the right and left. So if I have a piece, this other piece that I cut that has the colored at the top, when I'm cutting this, I can kind of decide. I can kind of look at this and say, okay, here's 5.5. And that kind of gives you part of one on the bottom and part of one on the top. Let's see, and this one, see, I actually think I might have, it kind of depends which one you cut out. So I might have cut this one out. So then I cut that off. And then for this piece, I cut, nope, you can see I cut the middle of this, and then this cuts right on the line. If you care about having it kind of symmetrical. Otherwise, you can just cut your piece 5.5 and then the other part 5.5, because this is 12 inches. So you have plenty of room to cut your pieces. All right. Now, this is going to, where's my card that we're making? Oh, things just go all over the place. All right, so these are going to go on the inside. And you'll notice that for this card, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 that are complete white images, and then I have this one that's a half. And I can decide, do I want that at the top or the bottom? I think I like it that way. I'm going to go ahead and attach these to the inside of our card. And this is just going to be centered, because remember, this panel is 1 1/8, and our little strip is only 1 3/4. So you're going to have a bigger border. You know, it's not going to be like 1/4 of an inch, because it would look kind of silly if you had just part of the next strip to it. So I thought this looked kind of nice doing it this way. Then put the other one on the other side. I kind I just like to put my finger along the edge and make sure that I have that lined up. And if you turn it over and there's little overlap, if you cut it too long, you can just take your scissors and trim that off. All right, so that's what we're going to do on the inside. And then I have some cherry cobbler pieces that I cut out. And just see how that just kind of gives a little more, I don't know, it kind of fills that empty space. So I love this little die for these pieces here. Now I have 3 that are complete, so when I do this, I'm just going to put a little dab will do ya. We're going to put that in the center of these ones that are complete. And then we're going to take a 4th one, and we're just going to put some glue on 2 of these little pieces, and we'll just line that up, and then we can take our paper snips, and I just like to turn it over so I can see what I'm doing. Get that, I want to kind of get those edges right up to the edge of the card. And I'm just going to snip that off, and then I have a half piece up here, and I can save this if I'm going to make another card, and I'll might have another half piece that I can use. So I think that really finishes off the inside of our card. So pretty. All right, now we have to do the outside. Okay, so the outside, I'm going to bring back our little tags that we have. And I'm just going to kind of lay them down on the front of my card. And I'm going to have the ribbons all going the same direction. Let's see here. Here's my other one. And this is just kind of to get the placement of where I want these to go and see how far, because this has that little extra knob from the tag, so you want, and it has the ribbon, so you want to maybe pull this over to the right a little bit to get that more centered. And I think that's pretty good. That's where they're going to be placed. Now I need to bring in some dimensionals. And when we attach this, I am going to put dimensionals on the back side of the 2 that have the quilted pattern on the bottom half of this. And I have found, if you lay it down, then you can see where this ends, and you're not going to go past that point for putting those dimensionals on, because if you go past it, you're going to seal your card closed. So I am going to put like 4 dimensionals on the bottom half of the stitched ones. Okay. And put 4 on here. And then for the one that is the holly, we're going to adhere that to the left side. So I'm going to turn this over, and I am going to put my dimensionals on the, whoops, I pulled off the top part. I'm going to put my dimensionals on the top half of this tag. Now we're ready to adhere those. So I'm going to get my pick tool and pull off the backings. And again, I kind of want to keep these. See about where I want those. That looks pretty good. And when I'm doing 3 things, I kind of like to do the top and the bottom first, and then that way when I do the center one, I know it's going to be at least in the center of the 2. Okay, so let's see, we want to get this about the same from the top that the bottom one is from the bottom. And now I'm going to take the dimensional backings off of this one, and the holly one, we're going to attach that to the left side of our card. So these 2 are attached to the right side, and this one is attached to the left side. And then when it opens, and this is kind of why you wanted paper that was going to kind of coordinate and not be, you know, way different when you open it, because you do see part of the tag. And then our outside sentiment, what we're going to do is we have a little piece of basic white, and I took the Merry and the Christmas from this Merriest Tags set and just mounted them on the same block so that I can stamp them at the same time. And then when I do that, I call it test driving. I test drive it on a piece of scrap paper to make sure that I like how it's lined up. So we're just going to stamp this on a little piece of basic white. This measures 3 inches by 1.5. And then I have showed you in the last weeks that this stitch stocking has a die that is like the topper of the stocking, but it also works well to do the sentiment that is smaller. Let me see, I gotta find the die. So this Merry Christmas fits in there very nice. So we're going to run that through our cut and emboss machine. And then hopefully the one that I already ran through is right here. And now put this on the thing so it doesn't get lost. Okay. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of that also. And this is like at the end of this sheet of dimensionals. So this is nice for nice little skinny border. I think that'll be enough. So take that off, and I'm going to use all those edges. And I'm just going to center this right in the middle of those stitched marks that go, I don't know if you can see that. You can see it on this tag. It's not as noticeable on camera, but there, yeah, you can kind of see there's a little stitching. So I'm putting my sentiment just right in the middle, and then I thought, it needed a little something. So there is another die in the stitched stocking that looks like this, and it cuts out 9 little evergreen trees at the same time. So let me see. So when they cut out, they're all separate. So when I only need 3 of them for this, but while I'm cutting, I'm just going to cut out all 9 because there'll be another card that I'll make and I'll use it. So what I do is when it comes out, I right away stick it to a glue dot, and then I put it back on the glue dot roll and keep it there until I'm ready to use it. That way you have them and you don't lose track of them. Like, you know, like right now, this little holly berry got away from me and it's just floating around on my desk. But I usually take all those little pieces and glue dot them right away and put them back on to the glue dot roll. Or you could stick them, you know, if you have some of this where your dimensionals are, you could stick it on there also. All right. Now, I am going to pick up, woo, flying trees. And I just thought this looked a little bare, so I took one of the trees and put it on this side, and then I took another tree. I'm going to put it on the side of the Mary, and take one more tree, and we're just going to stick that down on that side and fill that space. So I thought that was kind of a little cute way to use those trees. And then I thought we needed something on these tags. So that's where these cute little buttons come in. And since this is colored, they're white and red buttons, and I've used cherry cobbler as my main color. So I thought the white ones would show up the best on this card. They are adhesive back. So I'm just going to put one of these buttons in the center of each of these tags. And that just kind of finishes that off. And there we go. Now we need to do a little trimming here with our ribbon. So I'm just going to, and I don't know about you, but I use a separate scissors designated for my ribbon. I think it just keeps it sharper for when you're paper crafting to have a separate one. So we're just going to trim those off relatively short, and there we go. That looks a little more under control there. And there's our card. So now when this opens, this one's going to go this way and these two are going to go that way. And you have, you know, a nice coordinating pattern. And then it closes back up like that. So I hope you enjoyed that. I was just having fun with these little tags. Last week I kind of showed you, because I did a card that used the bigger square of the pad of that quilted paper. So this time I used the smaller one. This was bigger, and this is, I used that same die, but I added foam to it so it pops up. But my sentiment here, I used this same Merry Christmas, but this time I made the Mary go a little cattywampus and the Christmas go straight. And then I added that little holly image, and I cut that out from this Merriest tags. So you see how you could just add a tag onto a card. So that's, you know, 2 Christmas ones. This is another bundle that is that was an online exclusive that came out in July. And this bundle, let me show you, has it's called Simply Leaves. Has all these leaves that there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you can punch out with the punch that comes with the bundle. And then there's 2 smaller ones. It has some sentiments in it. So I stamped 3 of the different leaves on the Golden Glow cardstock and with Peaceful Pine ink. And then I did this a little something to say hello, which is in this set. And I used that same die that I used today for this. And this time I used some Peaceful Pine, and I just tied a bow and mounted that on top of the tag. I didn't run it through. I used some of our in color dots. And this time the leaves are going to go to the right and the tag is going to go to the left. And I also used our in color gingham paper. This, I love gingham paper. So this, on this side, has the big check, and on the other side it has a smaller one. And then it comes in all 5 of our in color, the cantaloupe crisp, or crisp cantaloupe, hydrangea hue, barely blush, golden glow, and Peaceful Pine. So I think this is wonderful for some fall cards. These 3 colors I think would be great to use for the fall. And then I made one more that used a bundle. Well, actually, this card was made with a suite that came out in July on our online exclusives. And it's a Halloween suite. So let me just take a little gander here and see what that's called. The suite itself is called Frightfully Fun Suite Collection, and it has some fun paper. It has this cute stamp set that has these little cats and some little ghosts and things, and then it has a really nice die set that coordinates with it. And this is where that Swirls of Magic embossing folder that I've been using for the last few weeks, this was in this suite. But, you can buy all these things separate. And then it has the cutest little adhesive back bats, ghosts, and dots. Oh my God, these are so stinking cute. Uh-oh, I taped that. I got taped to the back of my little doohickey here. But I'm going to pull these out of the cellophane, maybe. I hope you can see how detailed those little ghosts are. And the little bats, they actually have little pink ears, little eyes, and little pink mouths. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but they're so cute. And then it has these little black and white dots. So fun. And here's the stamp set. The die, look at this big tree. And it has this really nice tag, so you can use this tag all year long. Has this little swirl that goes with the stars and swirl embossing folder, so again, you can use that all year long. And then it has this fun paper. I used this one to make this card. So I did basically the same thing as the Christmas card, but this time I put those little ghosts on the top and bottom, and then I put a little black dot in the hole in the middle one. That kind of helped hold that closed, and then I added a couple more dots and a couple little bats, stamped Happy Halloween. And then when this opens up, I had the another paper that had these ghosts, and it says "Boo to You," and it has this cute little stamp of this little friendly ghost. So cute. So those are three different options. Oh, and this is another embossing die, has little bats. It's actually one of our little ones. It also came out in July. I almost forgot to tell you about it. Let me see where that is. I thought it was in this, but maybe. Oh, here it is. It's called Seasonal Cheer Mini Embossing Folders. So there's one that has those bats, there's one that has candy canes, and the other one has leaves. So it's really cute. So I think you can see the little stars and dots and bats that were on there. All right, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this card. I had so much fun making it yesterday. And then, of course, you know, I can't stop. And I decided I was going to make some other versions because, you know, you could do this for birthdays, you know, any occasion, really. Just use some different paper. Or you could use regular paper and use the DSP on the panels. It doesn't, you know, there's just so many options. All right, I hope you have a great week, and I will be talking to you soon. And bye for now.